Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies and Man once again, and today we're going to be talking about comic books. I wanted to talk about the 5 favorite comics that I've read since I started collecting single issue comic books. I started sometime in August or September last year, if I remember correctly. And you can see that in the fact that my haul videos reflected the fact that I wasn't really buying as much manga for that time period. However, this year I've managed to come back to manga a lot more, and I've been a lot more discerning with my comic book purchases, because the thing with new hobbies for me is that you get a lot of new hobby energy, let's call it. It's kind of like new relationship energy. You're really invigorated, you're really into the hobby, and you're just buying everything that you can, everything that is different. You're trying to explore everything, right? And pretty quickly you realize, hey, I've bought so much stuff and I don't know what any of this is actually. And then you start going through all of it, and you realize that you kind of went too far, you bought too many things, and then you realize that a lot of the stuff that you have doesn't really interest you all that much. However, it's part of the learning experience of a new hobby, right? And I did that a lot. I bought a lot of comic books from a lot of different groups of people. I bought a lot of Marvel, a lot of DC. I realized that I don't really like Marvel or DC comic books all that much because they really don't feel very important. Like, I'll read an issue of a comic book, and then 3 weeks later, this new, crisis event or this new crossover event happens, and it doesn't really end up mattering what happened 3 issues ago because this new event changed it. And it kind of is annoying because it's like, okay, then why am I buying this if it doesn't actually matter to the overall story of this character, right? And this, of course, comes from the fact that I'm not really a comic book person. I was mostly a novel person, where most novels follow a single character throughout a whole journey, and then if there's ever spin-offs, they follow other characters within that world that then interact with the main character from the first storyline, right? And manga does this very much as well. It has a singular titular character that we follow through his journey to things, right? And comic books really don't do that. Like, they do have the single titular character, but the reason with comic books is that you have to get people to continue to buy them. And in order to do that, you have to also make it sure that there's new people coming in. And so you have to restart the series every once in a while, right? And sometimes they do that when a proper storyline ends. Sometimes they do it when they switch out the author. Sometimes they do it when they switch out the artist. They do it too often, and it's kind of annoying. And so what I ended up realizing is that I actually really enjoy smaller publishers. I like indie publishers. I like Image. I like Ablaze. I like these type of smaller stories that happen to collect and publish stories that have like more in common with manga and more in common with novels than they do with Marvel and DC comic books. And I think that my list of favorite comic books kind of reflects that. There are some Marvel and DC comic books that I liked. I liked the Titans United DC run. It was only a 7-issue limited series, which I quite enjoyed. I'm also liking the Tom Taylor stuff. I liked the Deceased, the first volume of it, the main storyline. I thought that was cool. I like Dark Ages, which is a Marvel title also by Tom Taylor. I thought it was fun. It wasn't really as appealing as I first thought it would be, but it was cool. I like Dark Knights of Steel, also by Tom Taylor. I think he's doing good stuff. But the vast majority of the titles, I'm not really interested in all that much. I think I'm going to wait for the majority of them to be in trades and then just buy the trades, because that's a lot more satisfying to continue the series over, all of these types of, all of the collected editions is a lot more satisfying. But yeah, so let's actually get to the meat and potatoes here of the story. And I don't really have these in order. They're just kind of the 5 that I picked out of my box. And I don't really think that one is more over the other. And I also think that some of them are here for recency bias's sake. However, I did try to limit it to only 5, even though I have about 7 or 8 series that I really, really like, that I'm really invested in. But I only wanted to talk about 5 of them. So let's start with the one that I think is the earliest, which is Barbaric. This is a 3-issue series. A new one-shot is coming out here soon, and then the second part of the series is coming out later this year, and it's really cool. It's by this guy, I think his name is Michael Moresi. It's right there. That's his last name. I don't know his first name. And the art is by Mike Gooden, I think. John Gooden, I don't know. He did art for the latest issue of Dark Knights of Steel, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Right there, I think. And the Barbaric is really cool. It follows this bear man Viking guy who has this crazy living axe with him, and they hate witches, and he was cursed, and it's really fun. It's really interesting. It's kind of like the Northman, but like a fantasy character, and I think that's really fun. It's really enjoyable. It's really cool. There really isn't anything wrong with this story. It's also creator owned, or I think it's creator owned. So it's cool because the guy that created the story is the guy that is writing all of the story, and I think that that's cool. It actually manages to make it easier to follow. It's also a brand new group of characters. There's no baggage of, that you have to deal with, which is great. I like that a lot. I think Barbaric is a really fun read. I really like the art style. It has a little bit more of an adult lean to it, so there's going to be some boobies here and there, and there's going to be a lot of gratuitous violence, so be aware of that. But Barbaric is really, really fun. It also has a lot of common with some of my other favorites, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So then I think Sweet Paprika was next, actually. This is the next one that I picked up. Sweet Paprika is by Mirka Andolfo. She is an Italian comic book artist, and she has been publishing her stuff in English through Image, and she does great work. This is a soap opera romantic comedy type story. It's very, very raunchy. It's very, very adult. Do not buy this for teenagers. Well, I mean, I guess you could if your teenager is, someone that is relatively well adjusted and kind of a bit more mature than you would think. But it's really fun, and I really enjoy it, and it's really ridiculous. It's a very soap opera type story. It reminds me a lot of the type of soap operas my mom would watch, except this is a lot raunchier, and it's pretty fun. It's enjoyable. It follows this demon woman named Paprika and this angel guy called Dill as they kind of figure out if they like each other or not. And Paprika has a lot of hang-ups and issues with the way she was raised, and so she has a lot of trauma, and she's kind of repressed. And Dildo also has issues with the way he was raised, but he's a lot more open about his sexuality, and so they have this kind of give and take relationship between the two of them that is really ridiculous, and it has a lot of shenanigans in it because of all of these other people that are around them, and so it's really fun. It's also really ridiculous, but I really, really enjoy it. And Mirka Andolfo's art style is just so enjoyable. I don't know what it is exactly, but I just really like how she draws. So there we go. This is Image title. This first one was from Vault. Then we have, oops, I'll just throw them on the ground. It's fine. Gun Honey by Hard Case Crime. This is the first series. It's only 4 issues. This is by Titan. And I quite like this. This was basically if James Bond was a hot chick from Indonesia, Malaysia, I don't know, one of those countries. And it's really, really interesting. It's cool. She's a weapons broker. That's why her name is Gun Honey. She's a very attractive woman. And she happens to be called in by the U.S. government because something happened and she's the only one that could have done it, but she wasn't the one that did it. And so they need her help to figure out who did it. And then it unravels into this kind of revenge story. It's really, really cool. And it's very similar to other hard case crime stories. And this is written by an American, I think, but the art is done by someone from South Korea, I think. I can't remember their name. I'm really sorry about that, but it's really, really good. I really enjoy it. The next season or series of it is going to come out here later this year, and I'm really excited about that. And hopefully, I can get I think the trade paperback is already out. I just haven't seen it anywhere, but that's kind of common. Titan doesn't really get too many things out in traditional bookstores all that much. But it's a really good one. I really enjoyed this one. This is kind of a James Bond type story where the first 2 were more fantasy-esque. Then back to the fantasy stuff, we have Death Dealer. This is a really recent purchase, but it is up there with some of my favorites because it has a lot of the Conan vibes that Belit and Valeria have, which was going to be on the list, but it said it'd only leave it at 5. But it also has a lot of the very ridiculous and fun interactions that you see in Barbaric between Owen the Barbarian and his axe. But here you see it between Kerr the Death Dealer and his crazy helmet. As you guys can see right there, he talks in the normal white bubbles and the helmet talks in the dark red and black and red ones. And I really like this because it has a lot of Conan vibes, It's also a pretty fantasy heavy action series. It's really cool. It's very medieval. And I really like the art style. I think they managed to capture this style that that Frank Frazetta had very well. He has this really, I don't know how to describe it. Like, he makes muscles look really plump, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but it's really well done. Like, the way this is framed and the way that she looks is so Frank Frazetta. There's one where there's this woman that's fighting a lion. One of his paintings that looks almost exactly like that, and I thought that was really, really cool. I really like the art style a lot. I think whoever did this is doing a great job at, you know, mimicking Frank Frazetta's art style, and I really just enjoy this story quite a lot. It's really interesting. I think this is published by Opus, which is tied to Incendium, and I don't know what that is, but yeah, this is published by Opus, and it's a really fun one. I quite like it. So then I decided to pick my last, coolest comic book as Supermassive, where I decided to pick Supermassive as my last most interesting comic that I've been reading, because this one manages to combine two different storylines that I also have been really enjoying. And this is by Image as well, and this one combines all of their tokusatsu characters into a single story and lets them interact with a new character. This is kind of like a key issue for this character here. And so Brilliant Black, which is by Kyle Higgins, is a story that I liked. I bought the first trade, and the problem with that one is that it's just slow. It doesn't really have the fast pace that you would think an action tokusatsu superheroes type story would have. However, it is more in line with like old school Power Rangers, so I think that works. However, it's just not that exciting, and so it makes it difficult to really enjoy and recommend. However, Kyle Higgins is someone that I really like. I think his stuff in Power Rangers was interesting, because he did a lot of good stuff in Power Rangers. And so I'm willing to give him some time to take a while with it. But he also did Dark Hawk, which I didn't like, because it was a little too Glee-esque. Like, it was like if Glee and Power Rangers had like a bastard child, that's what Dark Hawk felt like. But it wasn't good. But I think that Radiant Black is a lot better, and I actually quite like the way that they characterize Radiant Black in this story. And then Rogue Sun is a series that I recently picked up as well, that I really liked, because this is basically like a magical Power Ranger, like Mystic Force, if you guys ever saw that. But he also is kind of like a Batman-esque kind of character. He's like a very damaged individual. I like that. And he also functions out of, or he works out of Louisiana, which allows for a lot of these like fancy fantasy-esque type situations to occur. And I quite like the Louisiana fantasy type story. I really enjoyed the originals. It's a CW TV show that follows these vampires that live in New Orleans, and I thought that was really cool. So, you know, having that kind of setting with like a Power Ranger is really, really awesome. I quite like that. And I also just like this story specifically. I think this is a one-shot volume by itself, because I really like the way that all three of these characters interact. This guy is kind of like a young superhero that hasn't really understood the difficulties of being a hero. This guy is more of a slightly older superhero that has finally understood the difficulties of being a superhero. And this girl here is kind of in the between the two of them, and it's really fun. And there's just this really awesome bit of artwork here. This is such a Power Rangers type feel to it. And of course, my favorite one that I've shown you guys every time I bring this this one up is right here. Let's see. It's this moment right here where they all get to, you know, henshin or power up or transform or morph or whatever you want to call it, because of this giant spread. I think it just looks so cool. And yeah, that's it. That's all of the coolest comic books that I've managed to collect since I started collecting comic books. So yeah, it's been an exciting kind of journey. It's coming up to a year here soon, in about 2 or 3 months. And I thought it was time to start talking about it, because I do talk about it in my haul videos and in my reading log videos, and I even do some comic book content here and there, but it is not something I do very often, or not enough to compare it to how much I actually spend talking and thinking about comic books in my personal life. So I wanted to make a video about it. I also just wanted to make some extra content for the channel, because I am going to be taking a vacation in July, so I want to have some extra videos here and there prepared, right? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you've read any of these series, or if you're interested in them from what I told you guys. And let me know if you have been collecting comic books at all in your life, or if it's something you're interested in or something that you don't really care about. I know that getting into Marvel characters and DC characters is really hard, and there really isn't any easy way to do it. That doesn't take like a bunch of research, so it is difficult to do so compared to manga. So I want to know what you guys are thinking about that type of stuff. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.